That morning, wind from the lake blew through Hyde Park like someone opened an icy door over Midway Plaisance. I held my 5-year-old son's hand, Malik, and we walked fast on the sidewalk, still wet with dew. The street shone with pale gray sky. The crossing lights blinked again and again, like a quiet clock. We are always on time. Even the pigeons at the 55th, 56th, 57th Street Metro station seemed to know our schedule. But today, one small thing felt off. It wasn't the train or the horn. It was a smile. Quentin Langford waited at the top of the stairs to the platform. He wore a neat gray suit and held a shiny black briefcase. He glanced at his watch, then put on a very proper smile. I had lived with that smile long enough to know it made other people feel calm. Neighbors trusted him. The building guards nodded. Moms at Malik's school told me I was lucky. Such a put-together husband, Asha. Congrats. People relax when they think life is in order. I used to believe that too, or maybe I wanted to believe it because it was easier. We walked in a line of 3, with me in the middle. My small boy on my right with a green backpack that had a fish zipper. A very exact man on my left who never missed his train. I heard wind whip through the trees along the Midway, the train's metal squeal far away, and our shoes tapping the concrete. It sounded like our usual morning song. Safe. Normal. Until Quentin's smile touched me, or really, it stopped just short of me, like a clear glass between us. It wasn't warm. Malik. Hold Mommy's hand tight, I said, tilting my head so my hair didn't blow into his face. He nodded. His palm was a little sweaty. I didn't ask why. I told myself it was from the milk he drank in a hurry. I always found soft answers for small problems, the way you straighten a crooked picture. Quentin bent down and kissed Malik's hair. Malik pulled back a tiny bit so small most people would miss it. I saw it. I also saw Quentin's wrist tense as he fixed his watch. The corners of his eyes didn't crinkle with the smile. Then, like every morning, he looked up at me and gave a short nod, like a check mark, and stepped into the crowd going down the stairs. I told myself, this is a family that runs on time. We do things by the minute. We're polite to neighbors. We pay bills on time. Our fridge is never empty. We don't shout. We don't break plates. If anyone asked, I would say we are fine. So fine the word sometimes felt hollow. Why are you shaking? Malik whispered, like a leaf brushing a coat. I flinched. I thought I hid it better. I'm not shaking, I said, and I smiled the way someone else does. The metro train slid into the station, headlights flashing off the wet rails. Quentin took out his phone, a quick habit, and smoothed his shirt with the other hand. He turned, waved at us. The city, all gray and silver, seemed to hold its breath. Sound slowed down, like pulled into a heavy curtain. I watched him, and a sentence lit up in my mind like a sign. A family that runs on time, except that smile isn't warm. From the outside, people might think I was making a big deal. They didn't hear the thin sound in his bye as he waved. They didn't see Malik step back half a step. They didn't know about the quiet nights when the drawer sliding sounded loud, and the quiet didn't feel peaceful. It felt like low air pressure. I had no bruises. No curse words. But there was a cold that seeped through walls, a slippery space between us, and I learned it can also be domestic violence, a kind that leaves no fingerprints, only rooms with no laughter. We walked down the stairs with the crowd toward the screens showing train times. I kissed Malik's forehead. Are you cold? I'm okay, he said softly, eyes sliding away. Then, like someone opening a secret box, Malik said, very quiet into my collar, Mom, I don't want to go home. I stopped for one beat, then kept moving, because stopping would make people stare. Why? I kept my voice calm, not sharp. Wind pushed through again. Last night, Malik swallowed, I heard Dad say, he has a plan. Sometimes time folds like the edge of a paper. You stand in the morning sun and in a darker place at the same time, like a Bronzeville balcony at 10 at night. On that edge, I saw our silent evenings, our talks made of, and yeah, the times Quentin looked at his watch more than my eyes. I heard neighbors saying lucky, and I wondered what that word meant. I heard those speeches people give about domestic violence, where they think only bruises count. I bent so my eyes were level with his. Did you hear anything else? Malik bit his lip and glanced toward the stairs where Quentin had gone. Dad said, "When Mom signs something, everything will be ready." I heard my blood in my ears, even like a train rolling. I smiled anyway, like always. "Okay, today let's stop by the library before we go home, all right? Well, pick a book with big pictures." I didn't know if I said that to calm Malik or to wedge a piece of wood under a door in me that was about to slam. On the platform, the speaker announced a track change. People shuffled. Shoes rubbed, making a small rubber rain. I stood still for one moment in that river of bodies, feeling hidden and hiding. Malik pressed close. His hand was still damp. At the top of the stairs, a patch of sunlight slipped over someone's collar, sparkled, then went out. I thought about the invisible cold in our home, a kind of weather you won't see in a forecast. I thought about domestic violence like a gray cloud with no clear shape, hanging near the ceiling every night. Quentin was on the train. I watched the last car turn silver and shrink, then disappear in the light. The world went back to its usual beat. I zipped Malik's jacket. "Do you want a waffle or a muffin?" "Waffle," he said, small voice, like a promise that the world still runs. I smiled, then turned my face so my smile could fade. If everything is perfect, why is that smile so cold? The question came back, like a thin red string. I put it in my pocket with my house keys so I wouldn't forget. I knew I would check the buffet drawer later, look at the transfer dates, remember every small noise in the night. But right now I did one thing. I put my hand on Malik's head, smoothed his hair to one side, and said, "Stay right next to me. If you're hearing me now, maybe you've felt that invisible cold too, in a quiet kitchen, in an empty hallway, or in a morning that looks neat and normal. Stay with me. Leave me a small sign, a city where you're listening from, a simple hello so I know someone out there has opened the door and looked into this weather. It'll tell you more about how a smile that doesn't reach the eyes can unfold a whole map, and why sometimes silence is the loudest sound of domestic violence. The wind on Midway Plaisance always hits your back before it agrees to blow straight." I walked with Malik along the stone path beside the grass, where the elm trees stood like quiet guards. Quentin was gone with the train, leaving a gap in the air, like a window pulled almost shut but not locked. "Mom, I don't want to go home." Malik's words kept running in my head like the news ticker small, but never turning off. I bent down to his eye level. "Can you tell me a little more?" Malik stared at his sneakers, scraped the toe on the stone edge, and his hand got sweaty. He swallowed and spoke soft. "Last night, I woke up to get water. I heard Dad in the kitchen. He talked on the phone," he said. "When Mom signs, it's done." A cold line ran down my spine like someone laid a metal ruler there. I checked my voice. "Did you see him talk to anyone else?" Malik shook his head. I was scared he'd see me, so I ran back to my room. A bright square of sun fell on the grass along the midway. Students were already out walking, biking, laughing. The world looked normal, like there were no scary secrets inside the kitchens around us. I held Malik's hand tighter. "You did the right thing," I said, quiet, like I might wake something if I spoke too loud. "When anything scares you, tell me. I'm listening." As I spoke, I heard my heart tapping against my coat. I remembered a small thing. Last week, Quentin moved the spare keys. "To make it neat," he said. His "to make it neat" always felt like flattening every wrinkle. "Why does Dad have a plan about you?" Malik asked, simple and straight like a pencil line. I didn't answer right away. I had to line up my words so none of them showed fear. "Sometimes grown-ups talk about work in a complicated way," I said, and I knew I didn't believe it. Some sentences are made to buy time, like a small bridge across a cliff. I was standing on that bridge, checking every board. We crossed to the square where a little cafe was open early. Big muffins sat in the glass case. "It'll get you an apple juice box," I said, trying to tie life together with tiny routines. "I want the box with the lion," Malik said. The espresso machine hissed. White steam breathed out like a too-hot thought cooling down. I paid, handed him the juice, and kept my other hand on my coat pocket where the house keys felt cold, like a few names in my head. I glanced at my watch. The morning was still long, but something in me had changed time zones. We sat on the stone steps facing the midway. I watched Malik's breathing and how he held the juice with 2 hands, his thumbs rubbing the edge of the straw hole. Maybe if this were summer, I would ask him to fly a kite. A tight string is better than a broken one. But the wind today was sharp like a knife, and I didn't want anything in our hands to slip out of control. Far away, a bike bell rang. A girl with a plum scarf walked her bike past, smelling of clean soap. In her life, there were probably no sentences like, "When Mom signs, it's done." Malik took a sip and looked to the right, like someone was calling him with a thought. "Mom, I already told you don't tell Dad." I nodded. "I promise." I was learning fast that some promises are like emergency exits. If I broke this one, I would lock myself in a room with no way out. We left the steps and walked along the grass toward the parking lot, where my old sedan sat like a quiet fish in a pool. I opened the door and helped Malik into the back seat. He buckled himself in so quickly and neatly that I thought, maybe he has practiced being the kind of kid who doesn't add trouble. I started the car. The engine shook once. The radio came on in the middle of a traffic report. Cicero Avenue, light delays. I turned it off. I needed to hear my own thoughts. I had to make order, count the details, Malik's words, Quentin's behavior, silent nights, the smile that didn't reach the eyes, the make it neat, the small changes at home. At one corner, I slowed as an ambulance flashed by. The siren cut the air and left a heavy silence behind, like egg whites in a bowl. I thought about community talks on domestic violence. Eid skimmed before the same advice again and again. Write things down, keep proof, don't confront if it isn't safe. 3 words lit up bold in my mind. Record, keep quiet. Malik touched the back of the seat. Mom, I recorded once, the other day. My foot eased toward the brake. My heart jumped into my throat. Recorded what? I was playing a game. I pressed the wrong button, but the tablet still has it. I swallowed. A tiny light turned on inside my chest, like a little warning lamp. You wouldn't believe how thin a hope can be, and still change the path of a morning. Do you remember where it is? In my room. The green drawer. I nodded. Then, well, go to Aunt Hannah's first and have lunch there, I said in a calm voice, like I just made weekend plans. I turned the wheel and headed toward South Shore. The city opened a different route under our tires, red brick buildings, outdoor metal stairs, windows with flower curtains. I felt like I had stepped onto a new map, one that wasn't built from someone else's schedule. My phone buzzed a bank auto text, recurring payment processed. The number was small but steady. I locked the screen. It felt like I stepped back one pace inside my own body. Mom, I didn't like home last night, Malik said, breaking the thick quiet. Why? Too quiet. I heard the drawer. I smiled, the kind made for children and for me. Sometimes quiet helps, I said. It helps us hear what we need to hear. We stopped by Hannah's, my sister's, just 15 minutes to drop off Malik and borrow an extra umbrella for the gray afternoon that looked like rain. Hannah looked at me a little longer than usual. You okay? I'm fine, I said, and since I couldn't say no, I put my hand on her shoulder as a sign that I would call. Keep your phone close. Hannah nodded and didn't ask more, like she had just set a sandbag on the levee. Leaving her place, I drove toward Bronzeville. King Drive slid past the windshield like an old film strip. I thought about the roads I'd taken with Quentin, the tables Wed sat at, the talks that never ran longer than 3 words. My stomach tightened. I heard it again. When Mom signs, it's done. Sign what? When? Where? And if everything was already set, why hadn't I seen it? I parked in the lot inside our complex. Wind whistled through the gaps in the metal stairs. I tapped my fob and pushed into the lobby. The ceiling light was soft yellow. The heater hummed like a quiet cough. I stood still so my heart could change pace, then walked to the elevator. In the mirror, I saw a woman pressing her lips together, eyes not tired from lack of sleep, but from being wide awake. If everything is perfect, why is that smile so cold? The old question sat on my mouth again, but this time it brought a thermometer with it. I would check the temperature of every detail at home, each drawer, each paper. The elevator chimed once. I stepped out. The hallway smelled faintly of lemon floor cleaner. I listened. No TV, no footsteps, just something very small, somewhere far away, maybe metal touching metal. I put my hand on my keys. The cold went through my glove. Stay next to me, Id told Malik at the station. Now, without him beside me, I told myself, stay next to the truth. I slid the key into the lock, let out a breath, and right then I heard a tiny, strange sound, like a new lid clicking into place on the other side of the door. The door opened, and a new metal smell slid in. A shiny extra deadbolt sat there, paint smeared on the edge like someone rushed. I never ordered this lock. No one asked me. In homes that look calm, new objects are questions with no answers. I closed the door, heard the neat click, and stood still so my heart could slow down. This morning, everything was cleaner than usual. The living room was neat, curtains halfway, chairs lined up, a flat gray rug. The fridge breathed softly. Water in the walls whispered. I went to the white buffet cabinet. The second drawer was open, a thin crack, like a mouth about to speak. I pulled it. Under a cloth lay a thick gray file, its paper edges dusty. I carried it to the table, sat, and opened it. First page, policy owner, Asha Warren. Insured, Asha Warren. Primary beneficiary, Quentin Langford. I read it again. The next pages were thick like rush hour train times. New policies, new dates, new amounts, some only weeks apart. Yellow highlighter lit up accidental death rider, an add-on for death by accident. Another line, contestability. Period. 2 years the company can question a claim in the first 2 years. Words that once meant nothing now turned bright. Since when does a home need rules for my death? My signature sat in the insured owner box, thin and even. I took out my phone, turned off sounds, and snapped photos of every page. At the back, clipped copies and a sticky note. Update beneficiary, QL. That handwriting wasn't mine. I put everything back the way it was and lined up the edges to match the dust. Returning the scene to itself was the only way to leave a path back. Quentin's office felt cold. A shiny black laptop sat in the center. I plugged in a USB. Ting. The password was simple. Email opened. A pinned thread with B. Summers. I clicked. Last night was perfect. Thank you for the transfer. Once she signs, we can breathe. I switched to the bank. In scheduled transfers, the payee was Brielle Summers. Steady payments like watering a plant. His calendar showed notary Thursday, 12:30 p.m., close enough to raise the hairs on my arm. I skimmed texts. We shouldn't leave traces. It's already clean. Stop using the old lock. Key in the drawer. I stopped. More info also means more risk. I pulled the USB and slipped it into my coat. As I stood up, my knee tapped the desk top, very small. I froze, then exhaled. The room stayed still. Back in the living room, I opened the drawer again to be sure my memory wasn't lying. An emergency contacts sheet slipped out. First line blank. Attorney. I laughed without humor. Either he has a lawyer somewhere else, or he thinks nothing will go wrong. I put the paper back, looked at the smooth wall, and thought about the holes where bad things slip through. I boiled water and turned it off at the first tick. In the light steam, I walked the hall and opened each door, listening to the hinges. Quentin's bedroom smelled like new wood. Ties were lined by color, shoe boxes by size. One drawer had a number lock. I typed a note in my phone, numbered drawer closet by tie shelf. I didn't touch it. Today, risk would not be the main character. At the dining table, I set my palm on the wood to steady my thoughts. Some cities don't show on maps. They show up as habits. The violence here doesn't shout or smash. It changes locks, changes calendars, changes who gets the money, changes the words we use at home. Domestic violence can be the art of silence, paid for by on-time bank transfers. My phone buzzed. Transaction processed. I texted Hannah, "Please get Malik for lunch. I need to handle papers." She replied, "Okay, doors open." I went back to the desk, snapped the screen for notary, checked the system time zone. It all matched. In a small side cabinet, a thin envelope was taped to the wall. Inside, a restaurant bill in Cicero from 2 weeks ago, with a soft Q, L, signed at the bottom. Outside, clouds pulled the light down. I checked my watch. Thursday, 12:30 was coming closer. I rechecked the gray file. The drawer gaps still looked the same. If when Mom signs is the door, the person with the key is already in my hallway. I touched my pocket and felt the USB heavy like a small stone. I switched off the office light and locked the door. The lock turned clean. I called the elevator and saw in the mirror a woman learning a new skill: counting. I counted policies, emails, transfers, and the days left. The elevator opened to the lobby. The doorman handed me a brown envelope marked Q. Inside, a flat key wrapped in tape with backdoor written on it. I put it in my pocket. House gifts usually come with notes. This one came with silence. The parking lot was empty. The sky hung low. I sat in the driver's seat and lowered the window so the cold wind could keep my mind awake. In the mirror, our window looked still. I started the car and merged onto King Drive. On the road, I thought about how people turn a person into a line on a spreadsheet, change the beneficiary, book the notary, wipe the history, swap the lock, then in the morning, still wave like they never signed someone's fate. The light turned green. I spoke softly, like signing a report with myself. Today, truth gets a seat at the table. I turned toward Wentworth, where there's a bright room, a long desk, a note-taker, and the name I need, Officer Devin Parker. In my coat, the USB tapped the backdoor key. A tiny clink. That sound said, "I'm not standing still anymore." Before the ramp, my phone buzzed. Email confirmed. Notary Thursday, 12:30 p.m. I smiled a smile with warmth. The numbers had just signed a decision. I pressed the gas. The city opened a new lane for me. At the bottom of the slope, the sky sagged, and I asked myself, if I arrive early, will the mask fall right at the door? I didn't wait for an answer. I let it fall where it should. I clicked the turn signal and pulled out, feeling my heartbeat count steps. The dashboard showed 11:42. If I reach the station before noon, I can tell every detail without missing a thing. I pressed my lips and repeated 3 words: record, keep, quiet. Outside, a siren squeezed itself into a thin line of sound. I gripped the wheel and wondered, who will open the door first, me or the truth? I reached Wentworth just as the wall clock ticked past 11:59. The parking lot in front of District 2 was speckled with white road salt from an old snow. The glass doors slid open. I smelled cleaner and a light metal scent. I pressed my hand into my coat pocket. My fingers touched the USB and the flat back door key wrapped in tape. 2 silent objects that felt as heavy as stones in my palm. At the front desk, they asked why I came. I said, to file information. I need a note-taker. I want to start a report. My voice sounded oddly normal, like I had practiced it many times. A young officer led me to a small interview room with 4 gray walls and a tiny camera in the corner. A minute later, Officer Devin Parker came in. He set a folder on the table and nodded. "Miss Warren?" I nodded back. He opened his notebook and clicked his pen. "Start from the beginning, in time order, slow and clear. I won't interrupt unless I need to check something." I took a deep breath. As I began, I felt a different clock inside me, the one that counts each shaky beat of memory. I told the story: the metro station, the smile that didn't touch his eyes, Malik's damp hand, the whisper, "I don't want to go home," and when Mom signs, "It's done." I told him about the new deadbolt, the gray file, the policies in my name, the beneficiary listed as Quentin. I told him about the steady transfers to Brielle Summers and the calendar notary Thursday, 12:30 p.m. I showed my phone with photos of the contracts and set the USB on the table like a small ice cube. Devin listened. Sometimes he made a small box mark in his notes. When I read the email line, "Once she signs, we can breathe," his eyes lifted for a beat, then went back to writing. "Do you have injuries, direct threats, or specific words of harm?" Devin asked. I shook my head. No yelling, no broken things. Just cold silence and items moved around. I didn't say I'm afraid of dying, even though that word stood at my throat like a pin. Devin said, "I understand. The law needs a certain level to act right away. What you brought is very important for financial investigation and for showing intent. Well, record everything." His pen moved across the page, steady like a morning train. I laced my fingers to stop the shaking. "I'm not here to tell a bad dream," I said slowly. "I'm here so my soul stays whole in a file before someone cleans up my life." Devin paused, nodded. That's exactly said. He opened a sealed pouch, slid the USB inside, labeled chain of custody, wrote the time, and signed. The careful steps were plain, not dramatic. My heart stepped back from the edge. Devin checked the photos. These policies include an accidental death add-on. Do you have paper copies? In the buffet drawer. I didn't dare remove them, I said. Okay. Photos are a marker. Well, need a warrant to copy your husband's computer if and when a judge agrees. I asked, can I ask for a protection order? Devin was direct. Right now, what you described, money moves, control behavior, lock changes, transfers, a notary appointment fits domestic violence by coercive control. But to sign a same-day temporary order, we usually need a clear threat, physical act, or proof of immediate danger. I'm not saying impossible. I'm saying we need more pieces. The word pieces opened in front of me like a checkerboard. I remembered Malik's tablet. I told Devin, my son said he accidentally recorded one time. I haven't checked. Devin set down his pen. If it exists, bring it straight here. Don't email it. Don't share it. Keep the original file. And he paused and looked me in the eye. The most important thing. Do not confront him alone. Keep acting normal. Move your child out of the home when you can, and talk to your sister Hannah only through a safe channel. Well, set quiet watch if command approves. I nodded. The word act echoed, but this time it didn't mean pretending. It meant survival. Devin handed me a thin sheet with the case number, his name, and the victim hotline. Record keep quiet, he said slowly, repeating the 3 words Id whispered in the car. If anything odd happens, gas smell, wires, a window left open, a stranger near your home, call 911 first, then call me. I signed the statement. Each stroke felt like tightening old beams. Devin stood. I believe you. I can't promise magic today, but I promise I started my part today. I looked at him again and knew I didn't need comfort. I needed someone who spoke in procedures. Out in the hallway, the walk felt like slow-motion film. I stopped at the vending machine. A soda can dropped with a small clink that made my whole body tense and then release. Outside, a thin cloud slid over the sun, and the light changed color on my car's hood. I texted Hannah. On my way. Meet me at South Shore. Don't worry. Before I put my phone away, the screen lit up. Calendar alert notary. Tomorrow 12:30 p.m. reminder. A black car rolled slowly past the entrance and turned away. I didn't catch the plate, but I saw the driver tilt his head like searching for someone. I calmed myself. This city has thousands of cars like that. I got in, set the case number slip on my lap like a temporary map. I wasn't at the finish line, but at least there was a road. Driving toward South Shore, the radio played an old soul song, a woman's voice thick like a wool scarf. At a red light, a text popped up from an unknown number. Stop wandering. Come home early. No name. I stared, kept my heartbeat steady, and deleted it on the spot, like flicking ash off a sweater. Green light. I drove. Hannah opened the door before I could knock. She looked at me, asked nothing, and handed me a gray umbrella. Malik is drawing. I walked past the living room and saw my boy at a small table, coloring a kite. I'm drawing the wind, Malik said, eyes on his crayon. I put my hand on his head, and I felt a tiny ting inside like a thought clicking into place. I sat across from him and leaned in. Malik, where is your tablet? Outside the window, the lake wind changed direction. Inside, the quiet wasn't scary like last night. It was space wide enough for an answer to land without breaking. Malik pointed to the green plastic drawer. There. I took a deep breath. The puzzle piece had walked into my hand. And when I opened that drawer, I knew some doors only open when we learn to stand very still in front of them. The green plastic drawer made a small click, like a kid's knee when they stand up too fast. I pulled it open. Between Lego pieces and crayons was Malik's tablet, the one he uses to draw whales and play train games. The black screen showed my face, a woman learning to breathe by numbers instead of soft words. Do you remember when you pressed the wrong button? I asked, in the same voice I used to ask if he wants cookies or milk. The rainy night, Malik said. I got water. I pressed the button with the red circle. I turned on the tablet. The voice recorder app showed one file with a default name. The time matched the rainy night Malik mentioned. I put my hand on his shoulder and leaned close enough to smell the crayons. "I'm going to listen." Malik nodded. I pressed play. There was a short burst of white noise, then the sound of our fridge, like a quiet witness. A man's voice came next, Quentin Langford. I would know it anywhere. He spoke low and sharp, each word clear. "When she signs, everything will be ready. No more delay." A short pause. Then a hard object slid, maybe a mug touching the table. A second voice, not mine, answered, half whisper, half calculation. "The money still comes on time. Leave it that way." A chair moved. The file cut off, like Malik got scared and touched the screen. In my head, a toolbox snapped open, not a coffin. Every sentence was a tool that fit in place. I rewound and listened again, and again. You could hear the punctuation. I didn't shake anymore. When truth has sound, fear turns into a creature you can name, measure, and file. "Hannah," I called softly. She came from the kitchen with a towel in her hand. I signaled for quiet and gave her the tablet. We listened together once more. Hannah closed her eyes at ready, opened them at on time. She gripped my hand. "Ash, we go now, before anyone changes the plan." I nodded. "How long from South Shore to Wentworth?" 15 minutes if the lights are green." I put Malik's coat on. "You'll stay with Auntie for a bit. I'll come back for you. Make your kite stand tall, okay?" He looked at me, as if he could read the high water in my eyes, then set down his crayon and nodded. "I'll let the wind do the work," he said, serious like an old person giving instructions. That sentence held me up. The road was wet and shiny with late sun. Hannah drove. I held the tablet like a small son. My phone buzzed 3 times. Unknown number, then went quiet. I switched to airplane mode. "Set a new passcode," Hannah said. I did it right away. My hands didn't slip. Outside, Lake Michigan spread like cold silver, so beautiful you could forget it has rip currents. The District 2 interview room was familiar now, gray walls, a small camera. Officer Devin Parker walked in, followed by a woman in a black blazer with a nameplate, Detective Maya Jefferson. Her voice was low and firm. "I'm Jefferson. We'll listen to the file together. No, sorry for what happened. No, please calm down." Instead, a pen and a chain of custody form for the audio. I signed. Each stroke sounded like a safe latch. I set the tablet on the table. Devin set up a device to make a forensic copy. Maya checked the system time, battery level, and date settings. "Well, play it once, note the exact time, then make the copy. The tablet will be sealed. Miss Warren, do you agree?" "I agree." My voice sounded stronger than in the morning. Maybe that's the moment when quiet awakening becomes evidence locked in. The file played, the fridge, Quentin's voice, short, clean sentences like a paper-cut knife. Maya looked at me when he said signs, then looked away, as if her eyes might contaminate the proof. When the file ended, she said, "Clear." The content shows intent tied to money moves. With the policy photos and the notary appointment, we have grounds for a warrant. I'll notify Sergeant Andre Coleman to set surveillance. "Miss Warren, tell us the rainy night setup." I gave a short account, the kitchen layout, the distance to the bedroom, the table height. I described the second voice, not mine, and who it could be. Devin made bullet points. Maya asked just enough to pin down the timeline. Nobody told me don't be scared. They worked. That work felt like a warm blanket. Maya finished the copy, slid the evidence bag to me for sealing and signature. "From now on," she said, "keep acting normal. Keep your routine. Do not confront him. Do not investigate on your own. Don't share more with anyone except your sister. Well, put a quiet eye on your building. When Quentin Langford moves, well, no." And she paused. "If you sense any setup for a home accident, call 911 first, then me. Even a gas smell is a signal." I nodded. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't the only one hearing the silence. Some silences had been recorded by procedure. I looked at the form case number, timestamps, their signatures and mine, and felt my back get lighter. At the door, I asked Maya, "What if they change the plan?" "They're smart. Smart people get cocky," Maya said, half to me, half to herself. "They repeat habits. We follow the habit. No soft edges, but it set a brick in place. We stepped into the hallway. Devin handed me a small slip with his direct line, Mayas, and a handwritten note. If someone texts, don't reply. I smiled for real the first time all day. Thank you. Don't thank me. Call me, Devin said. Hannah waited in the lobby, coat half open, eyes asking without words. I gave a small nod, not finished but different. We walked to the car. The air felt less damp. A thin ring of light cracked through the clouds like a promise trying to be on time. I opened the car door and noticed my fingers didn't shake when they touched the metal. On the way back to South Shore, I asked Hannah to stop at a small shop on 71st. I bought an external hard drive. The clerk asked, "What for?" I smiled. To save things that shouldn't be lost. In the lot, I backed up the policy photos, the calendar, the receipt pictures. Not because I don't trust the police, but because of a new rule. Every piece of proof needs a twin to survive surprises. My phone rang the school. "Miss, Warren, just letting you know, Malik's drawing is wonderful. He says he wants to draw the wind this afternoon." I thanked them. When I hung up, Hannah said, "Kids always say the needed thing in fewer words." "Yes," I said. "Grown-ups make the simple parts long." Evening fell. Hannah's apartment smelled like hot soup, the pot bubbling like a heart reminding itself to keep working. I sat by Malik and watched him color blue zigzags into wind. "Where is your wind going?" I asked. "To the kite string," he said. "So it stands straight." I nodded, knowing my job tonight is to hold the string, not the clouds. Before lights out, I wrote a short note for anyone hearing this story on a screen. If you ever hear a strange silence in your home, don't ignore it. Write it down, save it. Tell one person who knows how to keep records. Stay close to each other with what is real. If you're still with me, tell me your city, so I can picture the small lights staying on with me tonight. Tomorrow, they will watch. Tomorrow, Quentin Langford will think he's still on schedule. And me ill stand in a place I didn't know existed, where silence has a definition, where domestic violence has an audio file attached, and where a mother can speak softly and still be heard. Before sleep, I asked myself, in a bar on the west side, who will say the next line, him or the handcuffs? The morning after we turned in the audio file, the city felt like it switched time zones without telling anyone. I woke up in Hannah's apartment to the sound of water boiling and Malik's pencil drawing wind on paper. The day's schedule sat on the table, drop-off, pick-up, meals, bedtime little boxes filled with words like a temporary safety net. Hannah put a sand-colored canvas bag in front of me. IDs, some cash, an external hard drive, clothes for me and Malik, basic meds, a spare bus card, and a paper with 3 phone numbers. Jefferson, Coleman, Parker. "If you have to leave, grab the bag first. Feelings come later," she said. I nodded, knowing even feelings have to line up now. My phone buzzed. A text from Detective Maya Jefferson. "Team is set. Watching a 300 meters circle around your building. Keep your normal rhythm. Family passwords?" I looked at Hannah and laid it out fast. If Malik hears, "Do you want to fly a kite?" it means leave in 3 minutes and meet at point F, the red dot on Hannah's map. If Hannah asks, "Ash, can I borrow the gray umbrella?" it means call 911 and Maya right away. We fixed 5 simple hand signs a kid can follow: close, open, point, pull, frown, nod. I don't know when survival started needing choreography. Jefferson texted again. "Don't change drop-off pickup times. Don't change your usual route. Don't make weird cash withdrawals. We need him to think the weather is sunny." I wrote back, "I'll make rain if I have to." She sent a handcuff emoji. That dry humor, at the right time, calmed me better than pills. At noon, I drove Malik to school in the old sedan. His green backpack and crayon box sat in the back. Laverne Jackson, another mom, waited by the door. She tugged my sleeve. "Last night I saw your lights on at a time you usually turn them off. Be careful." I thanked her and said if she sees anyone hanging around the building, shoot a photo from a distance and call this number. I wrote Officer Devin Parker's line. Laverne nodded. Her eyes had that look of someone who knows silence is evidence if someone writes it down. In the afternoon, I headed back to Bronzeville. The sky leaned low, like it was listening. At the corner, a beige car sat that didn't belong to the block. I didn't stare. I'm learning to walk past memorable things like they aren't memorable at all. That's a new kind of acting. Lead role, ordinary person. In the lobby, the doorman's eyes stayed on me a beat too long, then he nodded. A magazine lay open to a home-safe ad. "You good?" I asked. "Fine. Someone asked me the backdoor hours the other day." "I said I don't know," he said, voice flat like the hallway carpet. I caught the info and pocketed it. The apartment opened like a stage with props in place. The air smelled like cleaner and new metal. I hung my coat, cracked a window, and turned on the kitchen light. I made a simple soup. Onions hit hot oil and crackled an everyday sound that ties life back together. I wanted everything, to neighbors and cameras, to look like a snow globe. Shake it, then it settles exactly the same. The woman in the cabinet mirror still tied her hair up and washed every dish. The difference, my eyes weren't hunting answers. They were placing questions in the right spots. Phone buzz, Jefferson. Black dot leaving the lot, heading King Doctor. I set the phone face down and kept chopping. 10 minutes later, Quentin Langford turned the lock. He walked in with fresh cologne and hallway air. "You're home early," he said, setting his briefcase on a chair, one button of his vest undone. "I'm making soup," I said, steady. "Looks like rain," he said, looking at the window. "Rain means soup," I smiled. My smile passed through my own eyes first today. He poured water and opened his laptop. The screen cast blue light on his cheekbones. His fingers typed fast, paused, erased, reopened, scrolled, closed. He went to settings, browsed the history. A slow beat, then clear. I turned off the burner and ladled soup. The soft click of history cleared sounded like throwing a handful of salt on snow pretty, and the trail is gone. "Want some?" "I have an early meeting," he said. I checked the time and saw his early match the event I had screenshotted. Notary, 12:30 p.m., Thursday. Today was Wednesday. "Where's the meeting?" I asked. "Cicero," he said. A normal place in other mouths, but on his it glinted like a kitchen blade. I nodded and filled my own bowl. My hands didn't shake. Doorbell. Otis Grant, the neighbor downstairs, stood with a paper bag. "Package for you delivered to me by mistake," he said, eyebrows raised, like he wanted to ask something else. "Thanks," I said, hearing the light sigh of a man guarding a door he doesn't have a key for. Quentin gave him a polite nod. Otis left, stepped silent on the carpet. Inside the bag, a flyer for mobile notary service misslipped or delivered to the right person. I put the flyer in a drawer and set a wooden spoon on top. Quentin ate 3 spoonfuls, checked his watch. "I'm going. Come home early," I said. "I'll try," he said, mouth drawing half a smile. I walked him to the door and accidentally fixed his collar, catching a thin red mark on his wrist like a paper cut. "What happened?" "Paperwork," he said, sliding his sleeve down fast. When the door closed, I stood still and counted to 10, then grabbed my phone. "He left," says Cicero. I texted Jefferson. She answered right away. "We see him." I washed the bowls and wiped harmless water rings from the table, like wiping thin smoke from my head. I listened to the apartment's quiet different today. It had cameras looking from far away and ears in the corners. I wasn't solo anymore. Someone else was keeping a backing beat so the song would go on if I lost breath. I turned off the stove and kitchen light, left only the dining lamp, a little indoor moon locked up, headed to the car, and drove to pick up Malik. He ran into my arms, smelling like crayons. "I drew a kite higher than the roof," he said, holding up the paper. A thin string pulling a red triangle up. I thought, my job is to hold the string and not let the wind burn my hand. On the way back to South Shore, the wind really shifted. First drops tapped the glass like a polite knock with the volume turned low. Hannah opened the door and showed the safe zone shed built, the canvas go bag by the door, shoes ready, coats, a water bottle, 2 snack bars, Malik's allergy meds. She taped a note on the fridge that said, "If," and 3 short commands: call 911, text Jefferson, go to point F. "We don't want to use it, but we practice," Hannah said. We ran the drill twice, like a fire escape practice. Malik followed without fear, treated it like a game. Kids learn strategy faster than grown-ups. I called Laverne on the private number Jefferson gave me and said, short and simple, "If you see anyone lingering near school, Take a photo from far away and send it straight to Jefferson. She just said, okay, and didn't ask questions. I texted Otis to thank him for the package and added a casual line. Smell anything new in the hallway today? He answered, a hint of machine oil, like for hinges. One reply, and the screws in my head tightened half a turn. Evening came. Malik went to bed early. Hannah made tea and put it in my hands. A text came, target on the west side. We're tailing at distance. I sent a single dot back. Don't glue your eyes to the screen, Hannah said. Eyes need rest to see. I closed my phone and leaned back. For the first time in many nights, the question, why, didn't echo back at me. In its place was a clean sentence with a subject. When he's most confident, he slips. Near midnight, a small buzz woke me. Jefferson. He met a man at a bar on Cermak, possible Darius. They're talking low. We haven't gone in. Needs stronger confirmation. Goosebumps ran up my arms. Some messages changed the temperature of a room. I wrote, he likes monologues. Wait for the word when. She replied, right. I cracked the window. The rain had stopped. The street smelled sweet and wet. In that quiet, I realized I'd stepped up a level. From someone hiding in the dark to someone laying bricks so the light can walk in. I'm still acting normal, but it isn't just to survive. It's to buy time for the cuffs to find the right wrist. If this is a play, I want the audience to hear the real breathing under the mask. The dining lamp threw warm light on the go bag by the door, a suitcase that could open any moment, but I hope gathers dust. I turned off an extra lamp and let the room settle into just enough quiet. The phone buzzed again. Jefferson, they're moving. We're closer. He just hinted at a home accident. Waiting for a clean pull quote. I closed my eyes and put my palm on the wooden shelf, like touching a tight wire under the floor. On the other end, maybe there's a click big enough for the whole city to hear. I breathed out and told myself what I tell Malik on the grass. Hold the string. Don't yank. And when the wall clock slid past 11:57, I knew the next move wasn't in my home anymore. It was in a bar on Cermak, where the words "when she" might be spoken one last time, in front of people who know how to turn words into evidence. There, who will bend first, him or the handcuffs? The wall clock at Hannah's place slid past 11:57 when my phone buzzed like a small fish in my hand. A text from Detective Maya Jefferson popped up. We're here. Bar on Cermak. Target at the back table. Back to the camera. Second mail. Brown jacket, baseball cap, likely Darius Mercer. I stood by the cracked window and smelled wet street air. Some moments make the city feel like a map folding open to show secret ink lines. I knew I was standing on that fold. Maya texted again. Stay silent. We need the word when. I replied with a single dot. I kept yesterday's rule. Hold the string. Don't yank. In the room, Malik slept, still hugging his drawing of the red kite. Hannah set down a cup of tea and waited like a musician counting a rest. I breathed deep, counted to 5, and steadied my heart. Another text came short and firm, like a nurse's hand on your arm. I'm at the back door, signed Sergeant Andre Coleman. I did not see what happened next, but later I stitched it from their updates. A dim gold bar, TVs on sports with the sound off, a soft chime when a glass touched the table. Quentin chose a seat by a mirror, the habit of someone who likes to watch without turning his head. Darius arrived 4 minutes late and sat angled so his voice wouldn't hit the mic straight on. Overhead, a vent shook slightly. Someone had placed a quiet eye in the line of air. Text from Maya. They're whispering. I sat on the edge of the chair, feeling a thin thread tug from my wrist to a hand across town. A minute stretched like a long bridge with no rail. Then the line I'd been waiting for appeared. He said when she... Wait. I whispered to the dark room. Wait for the full sentence. Don't rush. People who think they're clever often want a final word to seal the scene. Across the city, Quentin set down his drink. The glass made a thin sound. He lowered his voice, gray vest folding at the edge. When she signs at the notary, the rest will be a home accident. No one will question it. Darius tipped his chin and asked, just loud enough for the mic, gas or electric? Quentin lifted one corner of his mouth, the smile that never reaches his eyes, whichever is cleaner. The words hit the table like pins. Maya's text came right after. We have the full sentence. Intent confirmed. Moving to a clean procedural arrest. I grabbed the shelf. My fingers went cold. Hannah put her hand on my shoulder. I heard my heartbeat change under my collarbone. A note from Coleman. Counting down. I counted with him 3, 2, 1, like standing under a camera flash. The rest followed their craft. Miranda read word by word. Both men's status logged, evidence bags opened, nitrile gloves snapped on, Quentin's phone in a signal block bag, the wine glass labeled, the receipt photographed with timestamp, the bar's camera footage held for copy. I pictured even the chair scrape noted in the report. When truth walks out, it needs a dry path. Quentin glanced around in a tight circle, the look of someone sizing the room, not hunting a door. He tried his old smile, but it slid off like tape that won't stick. "You're mistaken," he said the classic opening line. Maya didn't argue. She lifted a zip bag. "We understand the evidence. Mr. Langford, you understand your rights." I knew the way she placed that period would drain the power from any speech to come. My phone buzzed. Maya. Done. One word, and the room changed temperature. I sat. My knee bumped the table, small thunk, like a latch sliding home. Hannah exhaled. Steam rose from the teapot. Outside, the rain had eased. The city turned its volume back up, softer than before. I texted, "Thank you." Maya replied, "Don't thank me. Chain of custody in motion. See you at HQ in the morning." When the cuffs closed on Quentin's wrists, the silence in the bar must have sounded like a muted round of applause. I didn't see it, but I knew it happened, because a few minutes later Officer Devin Parker wrote, "In transport. No release tonight." Short words. But to a mother, they equal a full night's sleep. I looked out at South Shore, rinsed clean after rain. In the glass, I saw my face looking normal. Not the old fake normal for neighbors, but a normal with weight. I sit. I breathe. I have space in this room. Part of me wanted to fall to the floor and cry for all the cliff edge nights. Another part said, there's more to do. Tonight those parts didn't fight. Hannah called and booked a morning visit with Malik's school counselor. "So he has another adult to talk to," she said. I nodded and added tasks. School transfer options, account changes, new security settings. I didn't want my home to be the only place telling the story tomorrow. I wanted a healthy system for my son, teachers who know what to do, neighbors who know who to call, the school nurse trained to read strange silences. Another text arrived, no name saved, don't celebrate yet. I didn't feel fear. I took a screenshot and sent it to Maya. She replied with a trash can emoji. I laughed. Some icons do the job better than speeches. Violence, even domestic violence, loves to live outside the light of words. Tonight it got put in sentences, tagged, numbered. Once it enters a file, it's half as scary. Near 1 a.m., Coleman sent a summary. 2 subjects separated. Public defenders notified. Receipt, cameras, audio, all confirm. Well, seek warrants for devices and financials before noon. I read it out loud to Hannah. She leaned back and closed her eyes. I poured more hot water. My hand didn't shake, touching the kettle. Small things, cups, towels, chairs sat where they belonged, like they'd just been called by name. I tucked in Malik. He rolled and mumbled a word I couldn't catch. I placed my hand on his back. His breath rose and fell like small waves. Strange. I thought we can live for weeks on texts, dots, and objects that seem dull. A USB stick, a policy, a notary appointment. Those tools, the language of procedure, quietly walked me through a dark alley. Back in the living room, I turned off extra lights. The Go Now canvas bag still sat open, but it no longer looked like the only life raft. It was just one option. Ahead of me was a road. Tomorrow Daily Center. ADA Kiara Thompson. Judge Denise Walker, and at the clinic corner Dr. Alicia Grant for me and my child. I repeated the names like an orchestra list: who enters when, who keeps the beat, who lands the final note. Before sleep, I opened my notebook and wrote, "The smile that never reached the eyes is offstage." I put down the pen and listened to a dry wind slip through the window bars. Somewhere miles away, a man was learning a new script. I want to speak to a lawyer. And me tomorrow ill practice the short lines life needs to hear. I am not afraid anymore. I choose firm boundaries. I am speaking for the child who bravely hit record at 2 a.m. I closed my eyes and pictured a windy Jackson Park sky, a kite string long enough to lift, tight enough to tell both of us, mother and son, the way up is real now. The first morning after the night everything was done, a text from Detective Maya Jefferson felt like the city pulling up a fresh curtain. I took Malik to school and paused a little longer at the red brick gate. He swung his blue backpack and held up his drawing of a red kite. "Today, I'll let the wind keep working," he said. I nodded. "I'll stand at the end of the string." In the parking lot, Hannah closed the car door as softly as closing a whole chapter. I realized some quiet sounds are strong enough to end a season of life. At noon, the Daily Center sat calm and serious. Its gray stone steps led me into a day of paperwork. I held my bag tight. A printed copy of the insurance policy, bank transfer slips, a note that said, "Notary, 12:30 p.m., and the sealed audio file. They rested like bricks fired hard in a kiln. Ada Kiara Thompson met me in the hall. Her voice was warm and firm. "We only say what we can prove." I nodded. That was the language I learned last night. No hype, no cutting the truth down. Officer Devin Parker gave a short handshake. Sergeant Andre Coleman checked the chain of custody one more time. I kept my mind in the right lane, like a car on a busy bridge. Strict, steady, no sharp turns made by feelings. Judge Denise Walker's courtroom was cold in a museum way, cold to preserve things. They brought in Quentin Langford. His gray suit was still pressed, but his smile had nowhere to hold on. I sat in the row for victims and witnesses and breathed so my heart wouldn't talk over my mouth. Kiara opened the file. The insurance contract with my name, Quentin as the beneficiary, the accidental death rider, the notary schedule. Then she lowered her voice like placing a scalpel on the right line. Audio from the device of a 5-year-old child, Malik Warren. The room rippled like a pond when you drop in a stone with the exact weight. The recording played. You could hear our fridge, a glass touching the table, and Quentin's voice. "Once she signs, everything is ready. The rest is an accident at home." I looked at my hands and felt my palm lines suddenly mean something. The defense lawyer stood to cut the word accident out of context. Judge Walker raised her hand. "Let the tape finish." When it ended, she asked only once, short enough to keep truth from leaking away. "Do we have proof of a lock change? Any payments to Brielle Summers? A notary schedule?" Kiara, "Yes." Parker, "Yes." Coleman, "Yes." She nodded. The gavel hit like a door sliding into the right groove. A temporary protection order was signed. Warrants to search devices and accounts were approved. The court marked the case as high risk and set a no-contact radius. On the other side, they stirred words like misunderstanding, misquote, false context. Kiara did not argue. She simply brought each piece into the light and let the pieces lock themselves together. In a few minutes, there was no room left for tricks. When court ended, I walked into the hallway like someone stepping off a long bridge. Dr. Alicia Grant waited there with steady, professional eyes. "Well-set sessions for you and Malik," she said, "and start by giving names to your feelings." I suddenly knew why I slept last night. All the names had finally shown up. When violence has a name, even domestic violence, it can't hide as easily. The next weeks followed a healing rhythm, lots of forms, appointments, and just enough conversations. I opened new bank accounts, moved Malik to a new school, changed my phone number, changed my passwords, even changed my walking route in the park. Laverne Jackson stopped by with cookies and a paper of hotline numbers. Otis Grant stood watch when I walked to the parking lot. He didn't talk much, he just lifted a hand. In our new apartment near Jackson Park, with windows facing trees, I hung Malik's red kite drawing on the very first wall. I want my child to wake each morning and see something he built with his own hands. Detective Maya Jefferson sent updates. The search warrants found emails, calendar notes, handwritten plans, a gas diagram above all, the pride of a man used to living in a legal gray zone. Ada Kiara Thompson prepared charges that were gentle in tone but strong in law. Conspiracy, insurance fraud, threats, reckless endangerment, and a list of controlling acts that fit our state's domestic violence rules. I no longer counted days to court the way people wait for a package. I counted evenings when Malik's laughter bounced off our walls. That told me this house was filling up again. One rainy afternoon, I stood under the porch and smelled wet earth. Hannah made tea and asked, "Do you regret anything?" I thought, then answered honestly, "Yes. I regret the years I mistook silence for peace." Hannah nodded and placed her hand on mine, but we got out. That small word "got" was simple, like a hair clip, but it held down a whole storm of hair. At the second hearing, Judge Walker listened quickly to both sides. Quentin wore a darker suit and searched for his old role with his eyes. I sat quietly. ADA Chiara presented the evidence with nothing extra. The defense asked for bail. The court said no. I remembered Sergeant Coleman's look as he passed me. We followed the steps. Funny how something we used to hate, the slow system, can also be the tool that saves us. It's not fast, but it walks straight. That night after court, I sat at my new kitchen table and opened a small notebook. Dr. Grant told me to write 3 lines a day. One about a feeling, one about an action, one about something I can control. I wrote, "Today I am calm." I talked with my child about fear, like we talk about rain. It comes and it goes. I lock the door at night and open the window in the morning. Those short lines are paving stones for a long life. Malik colored beside me. "Mom, what does the wind want?" he asked. "The wind wants to pass through," I said. "Then what does the string want?" "To stay, so the kite won't get lost." He thought for a moment and smiled. "I'll hold the string." That was enough. A 5-year-old had just defined home for us. An email from Ada Chiara's office arrived. Charges complete, arraignment date set, and a victim support plan opened. I taped Malik's new school calendar beside it, a school near the lake, lots of trees, and a principal who likes to say, "You kids teach me patience." I want my child's world full of grown-ups who listen. On a sunny morning, we took a real kite to Jackson Park. The red kite climbed like someone going up a ladder, one careful step at a time. I stood below, gripping the line. The pull in my palm felt strange and good, lifting, holding, and letting fly all at once. Hannah took a photo and laughed. "You look different," I said. Holding the string, not the wind. That is how I plan to live the rest of my life." A call from Detective Jefferson made noon flicker like sun through leaves. We found another link, the mobile notary service. They're cooperating and shared their schedule. The sign then accident plan now has edges. I thanked her not because they saved me, but because they gave names to shadows. I want women who hear this story, in any city, to know that domestic violence has many shapes. Sometimes there's no shouting, just neat bills, new locks, and whispery phone calls. Don't wait for a crash. Listen for strange silence. That night, I opened the window and heard Lake Michigan breathe out a long sigh. I remembered the exact moment at the metro station when Malik said, "I don't want to go home." If there is a marker for our new life, it sits there in a small sentence from a child brave enough to tell the truth. Grown-ups often need evidence. Children often just need trust. Now I have both. A few months later, I spoke at a community center with mothers, grandmothers, and young women about boundaries and process. I brought 3 items: an empty USB, a kite drawing, and an old lock. I said I used all 3 to cross over. The USB for what ears can hear, the kite for what the heart must remember, the lock for what must be changed. Officer Parker sat in the last row. Maya Jefferson leaned on the wall. Hannah played with Malik in the corner. I looked at them and understood. Justice is not only a gavel, it is a community that stands together at the right time. As we left, Laverne squeezed my hand. "I once thought silence was politeness," she said. I shook my head. "It can be teamwork with harm if we're quiet in the wrong place." We both laughed, light as people who just set down a backpack full of rocks. On the last night before Malik started his new school, I closed my notebook with a line to my past self. "Don't be afraid of long truth. Truth is long, but it outlasts every short, easy story." The next morning, he wore his uniform, new shoes, and a wide smile missing one baby tooth. The old fears went out like dust shaken from our feet. If you've traveled this far with me, leave a small trace your city or your own story about wind. If this helped, stay with this channel for a while. If something didn't land, Tell me in the comments so we can fix it. And if you still don't like it, a light tap on the like button lets me know I need to learn a new rhythm so the next videos fit you better. Thank you for listening all the way. At the end screen, more real-life stories are waiting. Just take one more step. And here's one last thing before we end. This morning, when I pulled the curtain, an unnamed envelope slid under my door. Inside was a photo taken from far away, a man in a baseball cap standing by an industrial gas pump. The sunlight washed out half his face. I put the photo back in the envelope, sealed it, and called Maya. I've learned that peace is not the end of shadows. Peace is knowing the right number to call when shadows show up. Tonight, I will still sleep. Tomorrow, the wind will still blow, my child's kite will still fly, and we will still hold the string. Somewhere out there, another story just knocked. Are you ready to hear it?